I am a doctor in dental surgery and I'm a patient of sarcoidosis diagnosed in 1990. This is all my roles. And I'm the president of the Italian Association of People Suffering from Sarcoidosis. This association keeps in people with sarco, but also their family and caregivers, and clinics and researchers too, all united by the common goal of combating this disease. The association was founded in 2011, has 250 members, but 5,000 people every year contact the association in order to get help through phone, emails, and meetings. We try to help assisting citizens affected by sarcoidosis and their family through appropriate service, to promote medical research and support clinicians and researchers for the correct recognition of the disease and diagnostic, therapeutic, and assistance pathways, to urge institutions to appropriate framing of the pathology and its correct social and health taking care in charge. By means of 8 experts of many medical disciplines answer on the website for free for patients, 23 volunteers answer their phones and email throughout the whole country, and the direct commitment of the board of directors in constant contact with all the experts centered in Italy and recognized by the association as reliable for help the patient case by case. When we started, in Italy there was no national or regional register on pathology. There was no hospital path for sick citizens. There was no territorial path for taking charge. There was no on-label drugs to treat sarcoidosis. There was an inadequate proposal for the inclusion of the essential level of assistance, which was at standstill. But we know that we in Italy have a lot of very good clinicians and researchers working on sarcoidosis. So we committed to engage with these researchers, striving to share and identify the most critical steps needed to improve the current state of the affairs. What was strikingly evident was the presence of diagnostic and therapeutic guidelines that were over 15 years old and in dire need of comprehensive revision. Supported by the help of these colleagues, I determined to attend the WASO Congress 2014 in Munich with a specific aim of meet Professor Bob Hoffman to propose a consensus meeting in order to address this crucial step. Recognizing the determination of the institution I represent, Professor Hoffman agreed to collaborate toward a goal that he himself was already keen to pursue. Following a year of networking across Europe, the initiative led AXI alongside German, Dutch and Swiss National Association under the aegis of the European Lung Foundation to attend the subsequent ERS Congress in Amsterdam. The objective was to meet again Professor Hoffman and Professor Dominique Valère, representing the ERS Assembly 12, to outline the next step required to obtain an official task force from the ERS itself dedicated to updating these guidelines. Thanks to Professor Caterina Antonio, my Vice President and I were able to attend the Assembly's annual meeting and share our mutual intent with all its members. Following further dialogue with the ERS Secretary General, we received assurances that the task force would be established. It was officially presented the following year, although its scope was limited to sarcoidosis therapy, as the ATS reserved a parallel task force for diagnosis, albeit without patient representation until its final session. From that point forward, the task force operated by involving in parallel the Network Patient Association. In the meantime, this organization has begun holding monthly online meetings under the acronym of Sarcoidosis Patient Advisory Group, the ISPAG, thanks to the coordination provided by the European Lung Foundation. These synergies yielded a comprehensive survey involving numerous European nations and the US, designed to clarify the priority of the individual living with the sarcoidosis regarding their treatment choices. The two subsequent papers served as cornerstone that guided the development of the new guidelines. Even today, these works are frequently cited in scientific literature regarding the clinical management of this condition. The progress of both the task force and the ISPAG on the guidelines was severely hindered by onset of the COVID-19. However, this collaboration made it possible to rapidly conduct and publish a survey on impact of the COVID pandemic on sarcoidosis patients while the pandemic was still ongoing, proving that this alliance is a very invaluable tool for both groups. This delay required the task force to work through 2020 to bring the guideline to the completion, which were eventually published in mid-2021. The scarcity of high-quality scientific publication with robust sample size significantly complicated our efforts. Yet, it did not prevent us from establishing a true baseline that addressed many of the challenges existing up to that moment. Nevertheless, the article concludes with a very clear consideration. We anticipate that an update of the guidelines will be needed within the next 5 years as more information becomes available. Shortly thereafter, the ISPAG, which has been growing to encompass over a dozen associations and groups, produced its own patient charter, clearly reaffirming the common goals shared since the very beginning. The same month marked the launch of the National Congress on Diagnosis and Therapy of the Sarcoidosis, strongly advocated by AXI. This Congress brought together many members of the task force, initially to publicly disseminate the new guidelines. Each session, and continues to be, co-chaired by European patient representative and ELF representative, and this year by US representative as well. The structure aims to foster the same spirit of discussion and sharing that had animated the task force from the outset. Following the conclusion of the 5th edition, we can state that this objective has been thoroughly surpassed. A few weeks later, 3 patient representatives on behalf of the SPAG requested the creation of a specific network for sarcoidosis within the ERN Lung, knowing that a parallel request would be submitted by clinicians with whom we were collaborating. Within 12 months, the request was granted and the Sarcoidosis Core Network began operating under the lead of Professor Francesco Bonella, with the coordination of the patient association entrusted by me. In the following years, the collaboration between clinicians and patient associations yielded numerous other research projects aimed at addressing medical errors that are typically less monitored. Another objective was to involve other disciplines in this research, ranging from rheumatologists to internal medicine, enabling us all to conduct surveys that will be difficult to achieve within similar time frames and with such a robust sample size, given the rarity of the pathology. Through the various editions of the National Congress, patients strongly request that the disease impact on workability be addressed, leading to the creation of dedicated tool useful for institutions responsible for protecting these more vulnerable citizens. Professor Marjolaine Drent responded to this need with a study that involved hundreds of clinicians, patient representatives from around the globe, and key stakeholders, utilizing graphical tools translated in all the language of the SPAG and beyond, as you surely aware. As can be observed, it is clear that this work benefits for a tangible, concrete contribution from those who live with the disease every single day. Following these milestones, WASOG itself invited an editorial on how this framework continued to evolve over the years, an editorial officially signed by AXI for the SPAG. The collaboration between SPAG and patient association continued to flourish, marked by election of patient in the executive committee and in the inclusion of four representatives of patients within the task force on clinical trial endpoints. The scientific output result for this task force presented for the very first time patient-proposed endpoint regarding quality of life, chronic pain, and the psychological impact of the disease. Furthermore, a joint collaboration between clinician and patient association enabled a survey that shed light on the impact of new comorbidities associated with chronic use of steroid in sarcoidosis therapy. On this basis, the collaboration proposed a paradigm shift that you saw before in the utilization of what currently remains the first-line drug in sarcoidosis treatment. In conclusion, the joint and continuous work between patients association and clinician is certainly essential to structure guidelines centered on the needs of those who suffer from this disease, but also of those who have to treat it, and it's mandatory to be successful in obtaining them. Another little consideration. Don't you think that the idea of the last phrase of this paper was correct? We certainly do, and we are taking steps forward in this direction. Thank you.